You know, great plants always start with great soil. So today, we're going to get our hands dirty and show you exactly how to create the perfect custom organic potting soil right from scratch. Let's get into it. So, have you ever grabbed one of those big bags of potting mix from the store and just wondered what's actually inside? You'd think it would be pretty standard stuff, but honestly, it's often just a total mystery bag of ingredients that can be wildly different from one brand to the next. And that really brings us to the big question, right? If the stuff you buy is so unpredictable, why not just take control yourself? Let's break down why going DIY is, well, a complete game changer for any gardener who's serious about their plants. I mean, just look at this variety. It's kind of crazy. One mix might be mostly redwood sawdust, another is peat moss and perlite, and yeah, some even use composted sewage sludge. The point is, with no real standard, you have almost zero control over what you're actually feeding your plants. But when you make your own, you solve all of those problems instantly. First off, you get ultimate quality control. You know every single thing that goes into it. You can tailor make your mixes perfectly for whatever you're growing, from fussy ferns to hungry tomatoes. In the long run, you're going to save a whole lot of money buying the ingredients in bulk. And what I think is most important, you get to introduce a rich, living biology into your soil with some amazing high-quality compost. Okay, so if we're going to build our own mix, what are the actual building blocks? Well, it's a lot simpler than you might think. It really just boils down to a few key components, and each one has a super critical job to do. See? Every single great potting mix needs just three things. It needs a base, which gives it structure. It needs an aerator to create little pockets of air for the roots. And it needs a living component to bring the whole thing to life with all those good microbes. That's the magic formula. So let's start with the base. For most mixes, we're talking about sphagnum peat moss. This is what gives the soil its body, its physical structure. And its superpower, its absorbency. This stuff can hold 15 to 30 times its own weight in water. That is absolutely key for keeping your plants from drying out. Next up, we've got to keep that mix light and fluffy so the roots can breathe. That is the job of the aerator. Now, the two most common options you'll see are perlite and vermiculite. Perlite is all about drainage. Those little white balls don't hold water, they just create airspace. Vermiculite, on the other hand, also creates airspace, but it has this awesome added benefit of holding on to both water and nutrients. And now for my absolute favorite part, the living component. This is where that beautiful, high-quality compost comes in. It is so much more than just a filler. It literally inoculates your soil with a huge, diverse army of beneficial bacteria and fungi. These little microbes are the engines of your soil. They break down fertilizers so your plants can eat, and they even help fight off diseases. This is what makes your soil truly alive. Okay, so once you get those basics down, you can start to play around with some amazing amendments that will totally supercharge your mix. Two of the most interesting ones are biochar and wood ash. Let's take a look at how these can take your soil to a whole new level. So, what in the world is biochar? Well, you can just think of it as a very special kind of charcoal that's made specifically for your garden. It's created from high-carbon stuff like wood, and it is incredibly stable. And by stable, I mean it resists breaking down for hundreds, maybe even thousands of years. It's like building a permanent, porous sponge right into your soil. And the benefits are, well, they're fantastic. Biochar increases airspace and water retention, kind of like a super aerator. It's also amazing at grabbing and holding on to nutrients, so they don't just wash away. In fact, it's so good at adding airspace, it can even replace perlite entirely. Plus, it has a high pH, which is perfect for balancing out the natural acidity of peat moss. You might not even need to add lime. And then there's wood ash. This is another really powerful amendment that you'll find in a lot of commercial organic mixes. It's a really traditional, old-school way to add potassium and to raise the soil's pH, doing a similar job to lime or biochar. All right, we know the what and we know the why. Now it's time for the how. Let's walk through the simple, step-by-step process of actually putting all these amazing ingredients together to make a consistent, high-quality potting mix. Okay, first things first, safety. Some of these ingredients, especially peat and perlite, are pretty dusty, so you should always wear a mask. Next, and this is a big one, pre-moisten your peat moss. Dry peat can be really stubborn about absorbing water, so adding some warm water first makes a huge difference. Then you'll add your fine stuff, like lime or fertilizer, and mix that in really well. After that, it's time for the bulk ingredients. Your compost, perlite, all that good stuff. Finally, just give it all one last good mix until the color and texture look totally uniform. And would you look at that? That's the transformation. You go from this pile of separate ingredients, your dark compost, your light brown peat, your white aerators, to this beautiful, rich, perfectly blended potting mix. It's ready to give your plants the absolute best start in life. Feeling inspired, but maybe a little intimidated about where to start? Don't even worry about it, I've got you covered. Here is an incredibly simple, totally proven recipe that's perfect for making your very first batch. This is the classic 1-1-1 recipe. It's so easy. It's just 1 part high-quality compost for that living biology, 1 part peat moss for that structure and water retention, and 1 part perlite or vermiculite for that all-important aeration. See? It perfectly balances those 3 core functions we talked about. And you can use any part you want, a bucket, a shovel, a coffee can. It's basically foolproof and creates a fantastic all-purpose mix. Now, if you're growing some really heavy-feeding plants, I'm looking at you tomatoes, you can give your mix an extra little kick with a balanced organic fertilizer blend. These will provide a nice, slow-release source of food throughout the growing season. And this, right here, is what it's all about. When you combine these awesome ingredients with just a little bit of care, this is what you get. A whole tray full of vibrant, healthy seedlings, just ready to take off, because they have the best foundation you can possibly give them. So really, the big takeaway is this. By making your own potting soil, you're not just buying a product anymore. You are the architect of your garden's health. You have total control over the single most important factor in a plant's life, its soil. And this is where the real fun begins. You now know how to build the perfect foundation for pretty much any plant you can dream of. So the only question left is, what amazing things are you going to grow? Thanks for joining me, and happy gardening!